Geshtinanna, adorned with perfumes and raiment of splendor, went forth unto her brother Dumuzi with words as sweet as honey, saying, O my brother, O prince of great renown, knowest thou not the customs of our fathers, that only by the seed of brother and sister shall a rightful heir be born, that the throne may be established in the manner of the Anunnaki? Dumuzi, whose heart was pure and unknowing of deceit, listened to the words of his sister and was entranced by her beauty. And in the secret chamber where shadows embraced the walls, they lay together as one. And lo, in the night, a vision of terror overtook him. In his dream, 7 dark figures arose like shadows from the abyss. They were as bandits, their eyes void of light, their hands swift in cruelty. They seized Demuzi, and from his head they removed the crown of lordship. His robe they tore asunder, and his staff they shattered upon the ground. Naked and bound, they cast him to the earth, and his cup of nobility was dashed to the dust. Dumuzi cried out, but there was none to deliver him. In that moment, Dumuzi awoke in great fear. His heart was troubled, his spirit cast into dread. He turned unto his sister Geshtinanna and spake, saying, Sister, a vision of woe hath come upon me. Darkness pursueth me, and my soul is weary with trembling. But Geshtinanna, her lips speaking falsehoods, whispered unto him with deceitful tongue, saying, Brother, thy dream is but an omen of Marduk's wrath, for even now he seeketh thee with malice, and he hath sent men to bind thee, to accuse thee of wickedness. Dumuzi, hearing these words, was sore afraid, for he knew not that his own sister had delivered him unto treachery. And even as the dawn broke upon the land, the servants of Marduk gathered in secret, their hands ready to seize the prince and cast him into ruin. Thus was Dumuzi, the beloved, ensnared by the workings of envy and betrayal, and the days of his woe were numbered, and the heart of Inanna, his beloved, would soon be broken. When Dumuzi perceived the snare that had been laid for him, he lifted up his voice and cried aloud, saying, Betrayal! Betrayal! He sent forth a messenger unto Utu, the Shining One, his beloved brother-in-law, that he might come swiftly and deliver him from the hand of Marduk's men. In haste Dumuzi fled, his feet carrying him into the wilderness. Into the burning sands and the barren hills did he seek refuge. In the heat of his distress, his soul yearned for safety, and he sought the sanctuary of the great and rushing waters. And lo, the mighty waterfalls stood before him, their roaring voices drowning out his sorrow. He climbed upon the rocks, smooth with the mist of ages, but his foot slipped upon the treacherous stones. With a mighty cry Dumuzi fell, and his body was broken upon the cruel embrace of the waters. The river seized him in its grasp and bore him away, and the breath of life departed from him. When the news reached Ningal, the son of Enki, he girded himself in sorrow and went forth to retrieve the fallen prince. From the still and distant lake he drew forth the lifeless form of Dumuzi, and with reverence he bore him unto the house of Nergal and Ereshkigal in the Abzu. When Enki beheld the broken body of his beloved son, he rent his garments in with trembling hands. He placed ashes upon the brow of the fallen one, and he lamented, saying, O Dumuzi, my son, my joy, my heart's delight! Why hath the hand of fate struck thee down? Why hath envy and treachery stolen thee from the land of the living? O my son, thou art dust, and to dust thou shalt return. All the Anunnaki mourned for Dumuzi. Inanna, upon hearing the sorrowful tidings, was stricken with grief, and her wailing filled the heavens and the earth. Enki, the wise one, the lord of the deep waters, lifted up his voice and wept bitterly, his heart crushed within him. He cast dust upon his head, and tore his royal robes, and his lamentation echoed through the halls of the Abzu. He cried out, saying, O my son, my beloved Dumuzi, what sin hast thou committed that the hand of fate should strike thee down? What transgression hath called forth this grievous judgment? Hath not my house suffered enough? Hath not my lineage paid the price of sorrow? He looked unto the heavens and groaned. Was it not water that bore me unto this world? Did I not descend upon the earth with the embrace of the waters? Did not the great flood cover the land and consume all life? Did not my grandson Asar perish, drowned in the great sea? And now, O fate most cruel, my son Demuzi is taken by the waters of the great falls. O waters, what curse dost thou bear against my house? He bowed his head in deep sorrow, and he wept over his son, saying, Dumuzi, my shepherd of the people, my joy, my delight. Thy love was pure, thy heart was noble, yet treachery ensnared thee. Why didst thou trust in thy brother Marduk? Why didst thou heed the words of thy sister Geshtinanna? O deceit most vile, O betrayal most cruel. Enki turned his eyes toward the heavens, and he called out to the Creator of all, Have I not labored for the good of earth? Have I not given life to the earthlings, shaped them in wisdom? Yet woe is he who fashions life, for he shall taste the bitterness of its end. Enki, wise in knowledge and full of cunning, beheld the fate of Inanna, and was troubled in his heart. For he saw that Ereshkigal, queen of the underworld, held his granddaughter in the grip of death. Enki, perceiving the treachery of Ereshkigal, devised a plan in secret. From the sacred clay of the earth he fashioned two figures unlike any that had walked before. He breathed into them the spark of the Anunnaki, but they were neither of flesh nor of bone. They knew no hunger nor thirst, nor weariness, nor fear. These were the Kurgara and the Galatur, messengers of life, who moved as shadows, silent and unseen. And unto them Enki entrusted a task, saying, Go forth into the land of darkness, where Inanna is bound. Seek the queen of the underworld, and ask not for favor nor mercy. For the way of death knows no mercy, and the heart of Ereshkigal is cold as stone. And so they descended unto the depths, where Inanna hung upon the stake, lifeless and pale. When they entered the chamber of Ereshkigal, the queen of the dead beheld them in wonder. And she spake, saying, Who are these that come before me? Ye are neither gods nor mortals, nor of the Igigi, nor of the earthlings. What trickery is this, that the living dare to tread the halls of the dead? Namtar, her vizier, moved to strike them with weapons of death, but lo, the blades passed through them as the wind through the trees, and the arrows turned to dust before they struck. The Kurgara and the Galata, standing unshaken, spake with one voice, We come not as foes, nor do we seek the throne of the dead. We are sent forth by Enki, the great lord of the waters, to retrieve that which was unjustly taken. For Inanna, queen of heaven and earth, was wrongfully judged, and the decree of fate must be undone. Then Ereshkigal, though filled with fury, was bound by the laws of the gods, and she signalled unto her vizier, Namtar, to lead them to the place where Inanna lay. And behold, there she hung, her body cold as the stones of the deep. Her breath was gone, her light extinguished. The Kurgara and the Galatur took forth the sacred tools given unto them by Enki. One held forth the pulsar, the fire of awakening, and the other wielded the emitter, the beacon of renewal. They placed upon her lips the plant of life, and they sprinkled upon her the water of life. And the breath of the gods returned to her, and the light of her soul was rekindled. In the fullness of days, Inanna began to stir, for the breath of life returned unto her, and she opened her eyes and beheld the living. Then the cyborg emissaries, fashioned by the wisdom of Enki, led her out from the realm of Ereshkigal. At each of the 7 gates, her garments and her weapons were returned unto her. Thus Inanna returned to the land of the living, arrayed in splendor, and her face shone as the morning star. She journeyed swiftly unto the land of Chem, unto Egypt, where the lifeless body of her beloved Dumuzi lay. There, with weeping and reverence, the body of Dumuzi was washed in the pure waters of the well. He was anointed with oils of frankincense and myrrh, the perfumes of the gods. They placed him upon a slab of lapis lazuli, the stone of kings, and wrapped him in a shroud dyed crimson, the color of sacrifice and love. They laid him in a tomb hewn from the ancient rock, a sepulchre sealed with grief until the day of arising, which is known only to the Hidden One and marked by the stars. Even among the Anunnaki, the lords of heaven and earth, it was believed that death was not the end, but a gate, and that the soul may rise again at the appointed time. After the burial of Dumuzi, Inanna, filled with wrath and sorrow, went forth unto the house of Enki, her heart burning with grief, her voice as thunder upon the storm. "Let justice be done," she cried. "Let Marduk be cast down, for by his hand hath Dumuzi perished. Death unto him who plotted deceit and sowed ruin among the sons of Anu." But Enki, the wise and ancient one, shook his head and spake, "O Inanna, princess of the heavens, enough blood hath been spilled upon the earth. Though Marduk devised the snare, the hand of death was not his. He is not the slayer." Inanna's countenance grew fierce, and she departed in haste unto the house of Enlil. There she cast her plea before the great Lord, whose word is law among gods and men. Then Enlil gathered a solemn council of the mighty ones, and they heard the sorrow of Inanna and the tale of betrayal. They judged the matter with heavy hearts, and it was decreed by the council, "Let Marduk answer for the transgression, for though he struck not the blow, he stirred the winds of treachery." They sent word unto Enki, saying, "Bring forth thy son Marduk, so that he may stand before the judgment of the great council." Enki, hearing these tidings, was troubled in soul. He summoned unto himself his sons, Marduk, Gibil, Nergal, and Ningish-Zida, and he prepared to answer the summons of Enlil, for the fate of kingdoms and gods now lay in the balance. Enki, the lord of the Abzu, whose heart was still broken from the loss of his son Dumuzi, rose up in defense of his firstborn son Marduk before the assembly of the mighty. He lifted up his voice, saying, "Though Marduk devised the counsel that led to sorrow, the blow of death he struck not. He is my firstborn, the strength of my loins, and the heir appointed by the stars and fate to rule the domain west of Tilman." Gibil, the master of fire and crafts, stood by his father and said, "Let not wrath blind justice, for Marduk bears guilt, but not the guilt of blood." Ninagal, the lord of the great waters, nodded and gave assent, speaking gently, "Let mercy temper judgment, for Dumuzi's spirit hath already returned unto the heavens." But Ningish-Zida, keeper of the secrets and master of the heavens, stood forth with a stern countenance. "Let not blood be answered with silence," he proclaimed, "for if this be unpunished, then law among gods and men shall wither as a flower in drought." Nergal, lord of the underworld, son of Enki, remained silent, his face hidden in shadow, his heart torn between brotherhood and justice. Then arose great strife in the assembly of the Anunnaki, and brother turned against brother, and allegiance was broken like clay under the heel. Swords were drawn, fire was loosed from the heavens, and a great and terrible war broke out between the clans of Enki and Enlil upon the earth. Aerial chariots filled the skies, and the hosts of heaven did battle over the lands of Egypt and Tilmun. Behold, the weapons of fire and thunder roared like lions, and lightning was loosed from the firmament, and the mighty warriors of the house of Enlil did clash with the forces of Marduk and his Igigi. Then Marduk fled to the house which is like a mountain, the great pyramid of stone, and Gibil, the artisan of fire, cloaked it with a covering unseen, a shield of power and brilliance, so none could pierce it. Inanna, fierce and bold in her fury, did come nigh to the stone fortress, bearing in her hands the weapon of brilliance. She cast her fire upon the pyramid, but it rebounded and scattered as light upon the smooth faces of the holy mountain. Her mighty weapon smote Horon, the son of Asar, and he was blinded in his right eye. The warrior wept not, but bore the pain with courage, though his vision was darkened henceforth. Utu, twin of Inanna, did set a bulwark upon the border of the Sinai. There he stood with weapons of flame, and turned back the armies of the Igigi, and the multitude of earthlings, who followed Marduk. Then a voice cried out unto Marduk, saying, Cease thy resistance, come forth and end this shedding of blood, lest all be consumed. But Marduk, defiant in his pride, gave no answer, nor yielded to the voice of mercy. The fighting continued without cease, fierce and unrelenting, for the hosts of Inanna clashed with the defenders of Marduk, and there were casualties on both sides. The skies thundered with the roar of heavenly chariots, and the earth shook beneath the feet of warriors. The blood of gods and men alike stained the sands of Egypt, and the rivers ran red with grief. The fire of Inanna's wrath burned hot, but the pyramid stood unshaken, for the light of her missiles was bent and swallowed by the cloak of invisibility, and her fury was turned aside.